In this video, I will tell you the life story of a LEGO minifigure turning into Venom, from working as a reporter to becoming Venom and fighting an epic battle. This story starts with a man named Eddie, and before he turned into Venom, he was a journalist working for a news outlet and making his program, The Brock Show. He drives his motorbike and reports interesting stories all over the city. Eddie is in a relationship with his girlfriend Anne, and he can't wait to marry her. But then, something happens at the Life Foundation, which we're building next. And for this, I gotta build the lab. There are all kinds of animals trapped in these cages, ranging from rabbits and mice to frogs and spiders. And they run all kinds of experiments on them. On the other side, there's a workstation with some jars full of concoctions, as well as this unique design for a microscope in LEGO. To the right, there's a chemistry table for mixing liquids for some tests, and if somehow it spills onto you, you can wash your hands. In the corner, I added a final desk with a microwave and a magnifying glass for some research. Carlton and his team discovered different life forms in space, and they are called symbiotes. And I placed some rods in these round bricks to make it look like they're trapped in a pod. He runs all kinds of experiments with them, and there's this pod where you can put in a test subject and attach the pod with the symbiote through a tube. Next, it will perform tests on humans. Now we're going back to Eddie, who enters the office of his boss. For this, I made an office with some giant windows and a small desk, as well as a cabinet with a painting. And because this office is in a skyscraper, I wanted to make a view with some skyscrapers in the back, so I built all of these brick-built buildings and added them to a plate, and now we can see the nice view outside. Eddie talks to his boss, and he gives him a job to promote Carlton Drake through the Brock Show. Eddie goes home, and that night he sees Anne's laptop. He logs in and sees an email of death cases at the Life Foundation. The next day, he goes to Carlton Drake for the interview and confronts Carlton and exposes him.
Security!
And now his boss wants to see him.
You're fired!
He goes to see Anne, but she lost her job too, and she is super mad. So she gives him her ring back.
We're done.
And now Eddie has lost everything. He moves into a new apartment all by himself, and for this I built a downtown apartment with a brick wall and a hallway. Next, we're adding some furniture. We can find a kitchen with a fridge where Eddie can prepare some food, and there's this little living room with a couch and a table. But first, a moment for today's sponsor, Bambulab. They sent me the X1C combo printer to show you how useful 3D printing can be when you're a LEGO fan. Let's unbox the printer. Assembling it was easy to do with the step-by-step manual, and installing the printer went quick. Next, I loaded up the filament and let's start printing. I want to print a big Venom minifigure which exists out of multiple parts. You can use MakerRoll to search for existing designs, and I found one for the big Venom figure, so I opened the file for the head in Bamboo Studio and made it a little bigger. So I attached the black, white, and red roll of filament, and you can select these in the studio. All I gotta do is add the supports and hit print, and after a few hours the print is finished. Next, I removed the supports, and look at that, this is so cool. Next, we're going to print the rest of the figure by using the app. This is Venom. This is Big Venom. That looks awesome, but let's continue building. There's also this old bed behind this shelf with some random junk, and Eddie has to work out, so he has a bench press where he can get a PR. After eating a giant burger, he can go to the toilet, and there's also a bathroom with a tub and a sink. Eddie hangs out, and while eating some junk food, he starts to think about his life and wants to get it back on track, so he grabs the newspaper and starts looking for jobs. He goes on some phone calls, but he can't get any jobs. Then he goes to bed and wakes up early next morning. Unfortunately, no one wants to hire Eddie, so now he doesn't know what to do. And to make it even worse, he sees his ex-girlfriend Anne with her new boyfriend Dan, and Eddie gets jealous because he doesn't know what to do about this. Eddie often walks through the neighborhood, and a homeless woman named Maria has warm conversations with him. And he also goes to Mrs. Chen's store, and for this I made a little store with some aisles and a bunch of different foods. He picks up the usual and walks home. Then he suddenly gets approached by a scientist who apparently works at the Life Foundation. She has information about all the creepy experiments happening there. He breaks in and sees the experiments. Suddenly, he sees Maria as a test subject, so he tries to save her. Then the symbiote attaches itself to Eddie, and Maria unfortunately dies. Eddie goes home to his apartment where he proceeds to grab a bunch of food, but nothing can get rid of his hunger. Then he sees some chicken in the trash can, so he eats it. Eddie goes to brush his teeth, but then he sees Venom in the mirror and gets blown back. That was scary. Eddie can't satisfy his hunger and doesn't know what to do, so he needs to get some help. So our next build is a restaurant. Oh man, I don't want 5 drawers around me while building, and luckily I can 3D print a sorting system made by Tiago on MakerLab. So I opened it in Bamboo Studio and made a few adjustments. Then I hit print, and a few hours later I got these sorting bins in different sizes and shapes which I can put into the drawers, and they fit way better. Aside from these drawers, I printed a sorting system for small parts and this useful sorting system with multiple levels. You can easily sort Lego using this method by just shaking the box. And I gotta say, this works well if you want to sort Lego by skill. And there's a lot of Lego laying on my table, and I want to scoop this up in one go instead of just grabbing them with my hand. So I printed this scooper which you can use to scoop up all your loose Lego pieces. And now that we have a nice workspace, let's continue building. Inside, it's filled with tables and guests who are enjoying a classy meal. To make the lobster tank, I used brown and transparent pieces for the windows, and since Lego never made lobsters, we're using these crabs. Eddie runs in and goes towards Anne. He talks to her, but she doesn't believe him, but then suddenly an overwhelming hunger makes him grab the food of other people, and then he goes to the lobster tank to cool off and grabs one of the lobsters and he eats it. Then everything goes black and Eddie wakes up in an MRI machine, which was super fun to design. Dan is going to run some tests on Eddie, so for this I built a small hospital room with some shelves as well as a disinfection sink. In the movie, we can also see this screen with the lake and some trees. For this build, I kept an opening in the wall where we can attach this base. Then I added some blue pieces for the water as well as some trees to make the forest on either side. I think it looks quite accurate for a screen. Next, they start the MRI machine, but Eddie freaks out, so they immediately stop. Dan lets Eddie leave, but they see something serious is going on. While warming up some food at home, Anne calls Eddie and she explains he must have some sort of parasite, but he goes crazy because of the voice in his head. Then he hears loud music from across the hallway, so he knocks on the door and asks if the guy can turn it down.
Can you please turn down the music?
Whatever, man.
Eddie relaxes, but he hears he shouldn't open the door, and in my story, he's actually smart enough to jump through the window. Next, he gets on the bike and drives away. One of the agents catches up to him and is ready to take him back to the facility. To prevent this, Venom reveals himself and eats some other agent and escapes. Next, he will have to defeat Carlton Drake, since he also merged with a symbiote called Riot. They fight near the rocket launch site, which is our next build. It's a walkway with some railings where Venom and Riot can fall off. Venom must stop Riot, so they fight. After winning, Eddie returns to Mrs. Chen's store. While browsing, he hears a criminal.
Give me the money right now!
Now, Venom will go to renovate his house and he must eat brains somehow, and since he can't eat humans, I added some chickens. There's also a tire on a chain where Venom can release some of his anger. Next up, Eddie visits a prison for an interview with Cletus Cassidy. For this, I built a prison with a dirty bed, a toilet, and a sink on the wall where Cletus can wash his face. After interviewing Cletus, Venom suddenly sees some writing on the wall, and with this, Eddie is able to prove Cletus committed the murders. Now, Cletus is on death row. Eddie goes to interview him one last time, but then they get into a fight and Cletus bites Eddie. He gets some blood in his mouth and turns into Carnage. Next, we're building the fight between Carnage and Venom. For this, I built a small part of the church, and to make the round window, I used these arch pieces sideways and added some windows. There's also a little altar with 3 candles. Carnage has kidnapped Anne and put her in a chest. Venom enters through the door.
Fight!
Carnage is defeated and Venom was able to save Anne. Then Venom hears police sirens, so Venom runs off into the night until his next adventure. Once again, a huge thanks to Bambulab for sending me the X1C combo printer and sponsoring this video. If you're interested in 3D printing and want to make Lego compatible prints or upgrade your Lego building and sorting system, the X1C is perfect for beginners and pros alike. And now is the best time to get started. Don't miss out on Bambulab's most exciting deals of the year. From December the 3rd to January the 3rd, explore amazing offers on their campaign page and grab the best deal of the season. Even Eddie recommends it. You can find more information in my affiliate link down below to learn more about 3D printing with Bambulab.